One of the things I've realized is that there's so many chemicals in laundry detergent and the soaps out there. So I either make it myself, it's actually pretty easy, or I use my green fills. If you go to chantelrayway.com/soap, I'll give you my free recipe for laundry soap. Or if you just feel like buying one that's really clean and not filled with tons of chemicals, you can get it there, chantelrayway.com/soap. Hey guys, I'm on my way home from being on national TV talking about intermittent fasting, and I'm answering the question, does intermittent fasting help you lose weight? Maybe you guys have tried intermittent fasting and lost some weight, but now you might just be stuck in a rut where you're not losing as much as you want. Well, I've interviewed over 1,000 thin eaters, and I've learned that intermittent fasting is just one of the tools they use. But there's so many more. There's 9 other principles that they use to stay thin. To get out of your rut, click here to watch this free video. Hey guys, I'm so excited to introduce you to Kylene Terhune, and she is amazing, and we're so excited to have you with us. Kylene, tell listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which is literally the longest title for basically saying I'm a functional health coach that runs labs on my clients. So I really started out years and years and years ago trying to figure out why I was really tired, why I was fatigued all the time in my mid-20s. I would have to come home and just like totally crash. And I was like, that's not normal. You know, I'm a pretty healthy person. I don't know why this is happening. And so I just kind of started being interested in my health and starting to get blood work and voluntary testing done and things like that. And so that kind of introduced me into the health world. And then in 2015, I had a total physical crash and breakdown. It was about 2 weeks of what seemed like a chronic panic attack, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, insomnia, couldn't sleep, crying all day. It was really, really scary. I was kind of almost about to commit myself to a psych ward because I didn't know, honestly, how I could really go on. It was a burden to myself and my family. I couldn't be by myself. My husband had to take off work to babysit me. If he couldn't do it, my mom would come stay with me. It was really quite horrible. And I went to the doctor twice during that time. And the second time she just offered me an antidepressant. And I said, I know that I'm not depressed. That's not what's going on. Something else is wrong with my body. I said, is there any way like we should test my hormones? Because I had started listening to things, you know, like following different health gurus and listening to different podcasts and trying all these different things. And she said, no, if you're still cycling, then I don't see any reason to test your hormones. So I was really devastated. I was emotionally and physically exhausted at this point. So I ultimately ended up following my gut. I got some hormone testing with somebody that would do it for me, realized that my body was extremely depleted and in a major stress state and needed support. I got the support I needed, but it was really mostly a catalyst for me to just learn more. And so I did. I just continued to learn. I got my FDN certification, and then it just spiraled from there in terms of I'm such an avid learner and I get continued education. I turned it into helping myself to helping other people. Because once I started getting this information, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to know about this. And I really started making the connection that if I wanted to fix my hormones, I had to work on my gut and my entire lifestyle. And once I really started focusing on the gut, a lot of things started to come into place.
Wow. So what were some of the things that you did to fix your gut? So when you say you needed to fix your gut, let's talk about what kind of symptoms you were having. Did you have diarrhea? Were you constipated? Did you have brain fog? What was going on that was like, okay, I've got to fix my gut?
So there wasn't any one thing that I was like, oh, I need to focus on my gut. It was more through my certification that I learned that it was really, really an important piece. But then looking back over the course of about 5 to 10 years prior to starting this, I experienced a lot of symptoms. Before I went to college, I would have extreme abdominal pains to the point where I would have to leave work because I was doubled over at my desk and I physically couldn't function. I would have fatigue. A lot of fatigue was a big one for me. And so I never thought that I would be somebody that would be able to get out of bed in the morning and wake up and have energy and be clear thinking and just get through the day like that. I was never, ever, ever a morning person. And that dramatically changed. My sleep cycles changed. My energy levels changed. My hormones started balancing. The hormone imbalances were something that I worked on for a really long time. And I started to realize that usually that's a secondary problem to other fires that your body needs to put out. And a lot of those occur in the gut, whether it's inflammation or parasites or whatever. So when I started going through the program, because as you get certified, you become a client yourself to experience it. And so you go through different testing, like hormone testing, stool testing, food sensitivities, that sort of thing. And I was like, great, because I want to fix myself and I want to learn everything. And so through my stool testing, I realized, oh my gosh, there actually is quite a lot of work to do in my gut. I had already started the nutritional side of it by voluntarily going gluten-free without any testing. And that alone gave me tremendous impact in my life. That was like a big one for me because I did start jumping out of bed in the morning when I was going to school for 8 a.m. classes. That blew my mind. Never thought that was a possibility. And, looking back, I realized how much inflammation that was causing. So I loved bread. I loved, cookies and brownies and all these different, things. And the concept of eliminating it was actually my mom's idea. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, why would you do that? Like, I actually had a blog about Oreos called Double Stuff's Not Enough, because I would pull them apart and make it like a quadruple stuff Oreo. So it was a big change for me, and that started the journey. And then when I started to get the testing, I realized, oh, there's quite a lot going on. I have multiple parasites in my gut causing inflammation. I have bacterial imbalances. I just had a lot going on, and I was able to clear a lot of it up. One of the markers, and you're talking about energy and sleep and that sort of thing, and I had struggled with that. My melatonin was super low when I initially got tested. And, about 90% of that is created in your gut and regulated in your gut. And so as I began to work on these things and eliminate the parasites and the bad bacteria and those sorts of things, my melatonin almost, I think it more than doubled by the second test just from that one round. So lots and lots and lots of symptoms and changes.
So what other things did you change in your diet? So you went gluten-free. Anything else that you said, I'm just eliminating this? And what kind of foods are you eating now?
Yeah, so gluten-free was the first step. And for the initial phase of that, it really just meant swapping products. So I went from regular Oreos to gluten-free Oreos and that sort of thing. Because I just didn't know anything else at that point. So it's just an experiment, but then I saw such results. I was like, I need to, get into this. So I'd started listening to, like I said, to a lot of different health podcasts, and I started hearing more about paleo. And so I got a paleo book and I started to read about that. And I was like, oh, this is the next thing that we're going to try. And thankfully my husband is super on board with anything I want to try, especially if it's in the health world. And so he's like, okay. So we started kind of experimenting with that. And really that just switched us from processed foods, like swapping those Oreos, to trying to either purchase or make whole food meals. And so now we make a really high percentage of what we eat. We do still go out to eat. We do our best and that sort of thing, but we do make most of the food that my family consumes, or it's in a whole food form, if it's a snack or whatever. So that was a big transition. And then on top of that, we started adding food sensitivity testing, which for my son has been a really, really huge thing. So the first time I did a food sensitivity test, I gave myself about a year because I was working on so many other things, like the things that were showing up on my gut test, my stool test, my hormones. There was just so much. I didn't feel like reintroducing foods and potentially adding stress to my body when I had so much to think about. So I did take about a year with the first one. And then once I got 2 or 3 done, I started to see, more long-term things. Wheat is a big one for me. So that's like a permanent, you can't pay me to eat it. That'll never happen. And then when my son got tested finally, because he had some chronic gut stuff going on, and he kind of got old enough to mentally be okay with doing a blood test. And there was some crazy stuff on his, like onions were really, really high, buckwheat. So if you are doing like gluten-free pancakes when you go out to eat, that's a big one that you're probably going to get exposed to. So we really saw that there were some common things that he was eating. And once he eliminated those, he just started to feel a lot better. So we generally are what I would say somewhat paleo. We, do eat rice and beans and things like that. So overall, it's mostly a whole foods diet. And then we do throw in some food sensitivity restrictions in there as well.
So what is your favorite food sensitivity test that you feel like is the most accurate?
They all have their pros and cons. I don't feel like there's one single one that does every single thing that you'd want it to do necessarily. But the one that I use and I really, really like and have seen a lot of great results with is called an MRT test. It's the mediator response test. And so you'll see a lot of like single screens, like IgG testing. It's like that one immune system reaction. The mediator release with your blood response should happen for multiple different immune system responses. So if there's an IgG response, it should show up as a mediator release. So it is quite comprehensive. A lot of my clients do see really good results from following that. Like I said, there's never anything that's 100% perfect. So I'll use gluten as an example. There are, I think, about 26 different reactions that your body can have to that food. And so not every single one is going to show up. So that's one example of something like on the mediator release test. Even if wheat doesn't show up, that's one I'm pretty strict with my clients on. But for the most part, everything else, because it's screening for fruits and vegetables and meats, it seems to be really, really helpful and accurate to follow.
Okay. And so let's talk about parasites. I know that you said that you had some parasites, and I'm just getting more and more info about just how parasites are getting, the number of people who have parasites. I've saw different studies. One said 70%, one said 75%, one said 80% of all people, whether you have them or you think you have them, that large of a percentage of people right now have them. And it was funny because I have a friend of mine I was talking to, and she said when she was younger, to make extra money, she was a fishmonger, which what they did is they literally took the fish off the boats and they would cut the fishes. And she said what they would do is, she said, most of the fish had parasites in them. And all they would do is they would cut the fish. They would open the fish up. They would just take, let's say she saw worms in them. They were instructed to just take the worms out, cut that part, and put the fish, the part of the fish that was good into, I guess the bucket, like this is good fish. And when she said that, I think she said that to me, I can't even remember how long ago, but since then I'm like, I think I'm just going to avoid, she says she doesn't eat any fish at all. Since job, she won't touch
Well,
it.
I mean, if you've had that personal one-on-one experience with that'd be pretty traumatic, I feel like.
Yeah. So she can't even eat one. She refuses to eat a bite of fish. I do love tuna, but I love raw tuna. And I think since then I've just been thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I love raw tuna, but I don't think I'm going to, go that route anymore. Yeah. So what is your experience? Have you found are some of the symptoms for people, whether they see they have it? And then what tests are you doing to see if they do have it, and what are your best treatment options?
Yeah. So you're right. A lot of people may not know that they have them. However, a lot of people that come to me to be clients do have a lot of gut distress. And so we're able to correlate a lot of symptoms. So usually if you have a parasite, you probably also have some bacterial imbalances as well and overgrowth. But parasites alone can do a lot to your body to hinder gut healing. So they can cause a lot of inflammation. There are some parasites are actually intracellular. So if you think about kind of a lawnmower in your gut lining, they can actually kind of like burrow in and out and cause a lot of cellular damage. So, I mean, obviously that's not something that we want. We don't want cellular damage and inflammation. A lot of them can cause constipation or diarrhea. So it just sort of depends on, what the client is experiencing, what sort of infection they have. Is it a long-term, really big infection, or maybe they're really, really healthy and they're keeping it in check a little bit. But one of the things that when you have parasite and bacterial imbalances, there's something called a biofilm that a lot of these bugs can produce, where it's like a sticky spider web that kind of coats your gut lining, and they'll kind of burrow in and live in there. And it makes them very difficult to target, and it makes them it's a very good protection mechanism for them, so they can be antibiotic resistant and all sorts of different fun stuff. So when you are doing any sort of gut protocol for parasites, bacteria, that sort of thing, you want to make sure that you're busting that biofilm and that then you are also targeting those. So one of the tests I like to run is called a GI map. It's one of the most comprehensive. I really, really like it. I've seen amazing results with it. It does screen for parasites, bacteria, yeast, fungi, some immune system markers, some inflammation markers. So it gives a lot to go on in terms of a very targeted protocol. In terms of treatment, I always go with a natural approach. So when you have things like parasites and bacteria overgrowth, they can cause so much inflammation and damage to your gut lining. It's kind of like the perfect environment for food sensitivity. So those are two tests that are really great to go together so that you can eliminate the food sensitivities and target the gut bugs and kind of get the best opportunity to heal as quickly and as effectively as possible. When you talk about treatment protocols, there's a lot of herbals and botanicals that I would use. One that I particularly love, I don't know if you've heard of it, is called biocidin. And it is a biofilm buster in addition to targeting pathogenic bacteria without, it's sort of like an antibiotic without killing a lot of the good bugs in there. So it's actually really, really great. There are some parasite herbals that contain blends of, barks or roots or herbs that are known to be anti-parasitical. So there are several things that you can combine. Obviously, you want to do it under the supervision of a practitioner. I don't really like seeing, 30-day parasite cleanses if you haven't, necessarily gotten a test to show that you even have one. And then, of course, you always want to go with people's symptoms because, we're never going to have like this ultimately perfect, amazing, spotless gut, right? Like it's designed to occasionally have, different bad bacteria exposed to it. And maybe you do have a parasite and all these different things. And maybe you feel absolutely totally healthy and you have energy and you have great sleep and you have great poop. You have no bloating, you have a healthy weight, like all these kinds of things. Maybe you have a parasite, but you don't need to get tested for it, and your body is handling it. Now, I'd like to get rid of parasites. I don't really feel like our retesting is done until the parasites are gone. But, in the bacteria, maybe there's a few that are overgrown or whatever. It's never going to be like 100% perfect, but that's okay. Your body is designed to handle a little bit of stress like that. What we want to do is boost your immune system, boost your body's natural ability to heal. We want to make sure we're targeting the really bad, the really big pathogens, and I do throw parasites in there. And then once we get rid of those, just see how your body does and kind of support its nutrient status and things like that.
Hey guys, one of the things that will take your weight loss to the next level is coaching. You can either work one-on-one with me or one of our certified private coaches. If you'd like, you can schedule your free call. It's a 10-minute strategy call just to see if coaching is going to really take you to the next level. The other thing is listening to the audiobook. Listening to the audiobook and getting the video course that I've done, people are seeing dramatic results. If you just listen to the audiobook 30 minutes a day over and over and over again and get the video course, go to chantelrayway.com and check out the video course. You won't be sorry you did. Hey guys, I want to tell you about a great product that you absolutely cannot live without, and it's called Digest-Aid. When you're stressed, you might not be able to produce as much stomach acid. And if you're eating a little more right now and you're stressed, you need help to digest your food. My Digest-Aid that I created has enzymes that are capable of doing just that. It has both betaine HCl, not just HCl, but an enzyme pepsin that helps your body digest your food, which is really unique. And right now, all of our products are 30% off. Go to chantelrayway.com, click on store, and get yours for 30% off. Just use the promo code PODCAST. I don't know about you guys, but I've been doing a ton of cooking lately, and I've been having so many new recipes. Go to chantelrayway.com/free recipes to get the best kale dressing recipe you'll ever have, the dairy-free artichoke dip that you will love for completely free. I also want to give you my entire free smoothie book that has the best smoothies. One of the things that can help you lose weight is just to replace one of your meals with an amazing smoothie. So if you're eating 2 meals, just make one of them a smoothie. You can get my free amazing recipe book at chantelrayway.com/free recipe. And our protein shakes are amazing as well. And right now they're 30% off. Go to chantelrayway.com, click on store, and use podcast for the 30% off your protein shake. So one of the things that I guess is a lot of people don't realize that there's weird symptoms of parasites that I've heard people say. And so I'll talk to you about some of the ones that I've heard people talk about, like teeth grinding. So if at night you're grinding your teeth and you may not know it, or you're having a lot of dental issues, waking up at night, rectal itching, excessive sweating. Have you talk about some of the most common, and then what are some of the other ones that are a little bit like you may not, because like for me, I wouldn't associate teeth grinding and waking up at night as a symptom of parasites until I started learning about it.
Yeah, I think all the ones you mentioned, and I think that probably the two most common that I would see would be the energy disruption, the waking up at night. So people that have a second wind before they go to bed and they're like, why is this happening? And then the rectal itching as well. So those are pretty common. And I think people are just like, I think the rectal itching, actually people, I don't know if they Google it or what, but they kind of associate that. They're like, I know something's wrong. Like, this isn't cool. And if it's like, it goes on and on and on, and I can't, I put creams or whatever, and it's not going away, then they're like, maybe I have something going on. But the energy thing, a lot of times they don't recognize. And, when you think about what they're doing to your gut lining, and your gut lining is responsible for absorbing the nutrients into your bloodstream. If you're not getting the nutrients you need for energy production, or you're not regulating your neurotransmitters, and so you're having a lot of mood swings. I mean, there's so much that can be almost indirectly associated with a parasite just because of the damage it causes to the gut lining itself. And so when your gut lining is not functioning properly and it's damaged at a rate that it can't repair itself quickly enough, you're going to experience things like brain fog, like fatigue, like cravings, like nutrient deficiencies, a lot of things that are going to affect you on a daily basis. And you may not immediately associate that with, I have a parasite. But they do cause so much damage and inflammation. It's sort of like an indirect effect there.
So what other kind of supplements or bitters or anything like that you suggest for people who have parasites? If someone says, and what are some of the different types of parasites? Because not all parasites are created equal.
Yeah, the GI map screens for a lot of them. One of the most common, I think, that you would probably see show up is called Giardia. And I think that's because we can get it through our water supply. So one of the things that people don't always think about with parasites is, they assume a parasitic infection comes from you if you travel to Mexico, or you travel out of the country, or you drink, crazy impure water or whatever. You can actually get it from your tap water. And Giardia is one of the ones that will show up a lot. I'm trying to think of the others off the top of my head. I think there's one called Blastocystis hominis, and there's just a lot of different ones that you're just like, I kind of view them all as equal. I mean, obviously the ones that are intracellular and going to cause a little bit more damage to the cells, I guess you would consider them a little more important or damaging. But I kind of view all parasites on the same level in terms of if they show up on a GI map, I'm going to want to make sure I eliminate them. There are different, Biocidin is one that I would use across the board. It's going to bust that biofilm, like I said. There's something called Parasite X, is an herbal combination. There is Amazon. I'm going to get the letters mixed up because there's one that's called AF, and then there's one that's CF. But there's a couple different brands that you can choose for parasitic, and it kind of depends on what the practitioner likes. And but you also want to make sure, if you are doing a targeted gut protocol for different parasites, that you also bring in things that are healing. So things like immunoglobulins, colostrum, making sure that you're addressing the foods, you're bringing in soothing foods, things like that. So there's always a multifaceted approach. And I don't necessarily have like, this is like, if you think you have a parasite, do these three things. We need to see what shows up on the test because it's different for everybody. And then I need to know, like, how are you feeling? What else is going on? Like, what are your primary concerns? And then we can put something together that's very unique for you.
So as far as the Biocidin, I know they have it in a liquid form, and then they have the capsule form. What do you love about the Biocidin? And do you like the liquid form, the capsule form?
Well, I guess it would be a shorter list to say, what do I not love about Biocidin? I love it. That, a lot of things that we'll do per person might be unique, but I will say, just to be honest, it's one supplement that I use with every single client because it is so broad spectrum across the board, supportive to healing. It's going to target bacteria and just really a plethora of any pathogenic thing that's going on in your gut, any sort of overgrowth. It's going to be supportive in the protocol. It's going to bust those biofilms, but then it's also going to target the bacteria and start to, work. And I like the liquid particularly because you can titrate it very slowly. So you add 1 drop at a time. And a lot of people that come in that are really, really sick or are, really mineral depleted or have experienced things for a long period of time can be very sensitive to supplementation. Even if you're not that depleted, but you start killing off pathogens at a rate that is too fast for your body to detoxify them, you can experience something called Herxheimer effect. So you can experience, fatigue and nausea and flu-like symptoms and things like that. We don't want to do that. We want to take it at a rate, even though that's a sign that it's doing what we want it to do. We don't need you to feel bad through the process. So I like the liquid because you're able to titrate it very slowly, 1 drop at a time, so that if anyone starts to feel just a little bit off or a little bit, they can reach out, we can pause it, we can use some binders, we can start to titrate it up again, but we are really able to work it at a rate that is comfortable for that person. The pills are nice if you're able to get up to the full titration dose and maybe you don't like the flavor. I've only had a couple people say that they don't like the flavor. It is a little herbal. There is a little bit of that taste. And you do put it on the top of your tongue, not under the tongue, and you swallow it. So for some people, that taste bothers them. And in that case, if you're able to get up to at least 5 drops, you can switch over to the capsules because the capsules are equivalent to 5 of the liquid drops. So there are kind of pros and cons to the two, but I'd at least like to get you titrated up to a certain point before switching over to a capsule. But in terms of effectiveness, both are going to have the same level of effectiveness, whether you're doing the liquid or the capsule.
Let's talk about vitamin C for just a second. Lately, I've been just overloading on vitamin C. I have this one vitamin C that I'm obsessed with. It's called Pure Synergy, Pure Radiance. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it for the Amazon link that I love. But it's 100% natural vitamin C from fruits and berries.
Oh, nice.
And it's literally made with just dried fruit. You know what I mean? So it has like organic wild berries, including camu and amla, and just there's no added synthetic or absorbic acid. And so I've just been really, really, especially with everything going on, right?
Oh yeah.
Everybody
is the perfect time to high dose your vitamin C.
High dose. Like since this has been going on, I'm trying to clean my gut, but just really trying to keep my immune system up. What do you find that is really kind of help other things that are helping people to keep their immune system up?
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned that it has all the natural, like camu. If somebody wants to get a camu powder and put it in their daily protein shake, for example, it's such a high, clean source of vitamin C and it's really good. Vitamin C is definitely one of the top ones I would recommend. A lot of people don't know you can mega dose on it in terms of just getting a lot in your body within the period of 24 hours without it having any sort of deleterious negative effects, except that it'll give you a little bit of vitamin C diarrhea if you hit the highest amount that your body is willing to do. So if you hit that level, then you're just gonna have a little diarrhea. If you want to avoid,
and this particular one, I love it because it's all natural and it's made with organic fruits and vegetables. Yeah. It'll help you go, but you're not getting diarrhea from it. So I love it.
You can also avoid the stomach upset if you're doing like liposomal. So there's some good liposomal formulas out there like Quicksilver, or I think Pure Formulas is another brand. I mean, you just put that under your tongue and absorb it. So it, type depends on, do people have good digestion? Are they able to absorb everything through their digestive system? It sounds like the one that you're doing would probably be really highly absorbable. It sounds like it comes in powder and you drink it, right?
Yes.
So that would probably be a really good absorbable version. And then anything you put on your tongue, liposomal, is going to get into your bloodstream. I hate to say it because we just talked about it, but biocyan is one of the things I throw out at people. I'm like, man, you just need to keep this in your medicine cabinet, because if you start feeling sick, pop this sucker in there. And so you can take it either for a chronic thing like a gut protocol, or you can take acute doses if you're feeling, something like a sinus infection or a UTI, or you're just starting to feel a little off and you want to give your system a boost. I really, really like those. Glutathione might be a little bit of an unusual one, but is one of the body's highest natural antioxidants. And so it is a really supportive one. I'd go for like a liposomal version of that as well. But start slow just to see how you do always start slow with something, see how your body responds to it for sure. And then we have to throw this out there, because while supplements are super helpful, if you're eating a super crappy diet, your immune system is going to be suppressed. So make sure you're eating, all the cruciferous vegetables, all the fresh vegetables or cooked or whatever works for your digestive system. But make sure you're getting plenty of greens and berries and nuts and seeds and organic produce.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Well, this has been great. And, I don't think we really talked about just everything that happened with you with your health. So I'd love for you to share just at the end a little bit about your story, a little bit more, and what were some of the things that you did to help heal your body of cancer?
Yeah, so February 8th of 2019, I was diagnosed with nodular sclerosis Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I had already been in the health world for a few years, so I was really shocked. But one of the things, as I started researching, I discovered that I had the lump in my neck for at least 2 years, because I went back and I looked at my phone, because I was like, there's no way that this thing just appeared overnight, So I was like, let me look at pictures and see if, and you had to be turned like a certain way for it to show up, and so it's not really noticeable. So I was finally able to find a few, and the earliest one I saw had been about 2 years prior to diagnosis. So I knew that this had been kind of coming slowly. And so then that made me feel like everything that I had been doing with my health, all the improvements that I had been making, had maybe slowed it down or even stopped it. And that God just let me see it when I was ready, when I had the right connections, when I knew enough about health to ask the right questions. And so from there, from the diagnosis, I took time to think about it and to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, because, I'm a functional health coach. Do I do conventional treatment, or do I look for alternative options? Like what's the best choice for me? Ultimately, what I did was I decided to utilize conventional treatment, because for my specific cancer, it's highly effective. Like it has like a 95% success rate, which is almost unheard of. So it's very effective. I was in stage 1A, so I had one tumor in one area. And the second opinion that I got suggested that I could do conventional treatment for 3 months and then be done. And so I went back to my local oncologist and I said, this is what they recommended. And she said, well, that's not the standard of care. Let me call him. Let me review the research paper that he'd be referring to. And then as long as it's okay, we'll go with that. So I was really thankful that I got the second opinion, because it literally cut my conventional treatment in half. So that's one of the things I encourage people is like really be your own advocate. Talk with your doctors, get a lot of information, be your own researcher. But then I was like, if I'm going to do conventional care, I want to make sure that I support my body any way possible. So I went into it as healthy as I possibly could be. And I hired a naturopath who specializes in integrative oncology. So Heather Paulson. And I recommend her to anyone that ever gets diagnosed with cancer now, because I'm like, she was so helpful and so knowledgeable. She really was able to bring, sure, I could have used supplements. I could have done my own research. But first of all, when you're going through treatment, you're tired. Secondly, you never really want to work on yourself. You just don't. And third, I didn't have that cancer specialty, and she just knows the ins and outs of everything. So she knew exactly what supplements to put me on for the specific treatment that I was doing, so I could protect my organs. So I went through ABVD treatment, which can hurt your heart and your lungs. So we were on specific supplements that did not counteract the chemotherapy benefits, but did protect my heart and lungs and other organs. And I was on, I think maybe I was a big box of supplements, but at that point I'm like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect my body. I was on like L-glutamine, a high dose of that, which helps your epithelial cells regenerate and replace, which chemo will kill all the fast dividing cells, which is why your hair falls out, which is why your gut has problems, all these different things. So we really did a high dose of that to support healing and regeneration. And throughout the process, I mean, you're never going to feel like amazing after a treatment, but I was really able to navigate it with as few side effects as possible. And then my recovery just seemed to be very, very quick. And so I've continued to work with her after to monitor my hormones and kind of balance things back out after such a toxic treatment. But it was effective. I got 3 months of chemotherapy. I use an integrative approach, and I've been 7 months in remission.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can go to my website if you want to know a little bit more about my story. It's KyleneTerhune.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Kylene Terhune, FDN, or you can follow me on Facebook. I have a business page, I have a personal page, or I have a private group page called Nutrition, #Nutrition that works for you. So there's lots of ways to connect. I also have, for those who are diagnosed with cancer, there's a Facebook page called Healthy Through Hodgkin's, where I do share encouragement. Because one of the things that I found is like there's a lot of Hodgkin's pages, a few on Facebook and like support group type things, but it was really scary. People will post a lot of questions or pictures, and you all of a sudden start thinking, oh my gosh, is this scary side effect going to happen to me? And it's very difficult. You really have to protect your mentality when you're diagnosed with something like that so that it's positive and hopeful. And so I wanted to create a community that was encouraging, that was supportive. So that's Healthy Through Hodgkin's. And then the book by that same title is coming out in March. So I'm pretty excited about that as well.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And if you have a question that you want answered, go to questions@chantelrayway.com. We'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.